Okay, just to clarify, I think that the Foothill Eastern Board granted this chair authority because there are many occasions where since 2008 we've been encountering some of the opposition groups and some of the legislative things that have come up that we needed to have a very quick turnaround and focus on a specific individual or firm to get some of this work done on a very short-term targeted basis. And we needed a very quick turnaround with regard to approval on this. And we didn't want to wait until the next board meeting because we just have monthly board meetings and we needed something on an approval basis done very quickly. So I think that was one of the reasons why we implemented this chair authority for the Foothill Eastern Board.
So Madam Chair, did you just say, let me correct what you just said on the record. You just said that this was implemented in order to act quickly and also increase authorities that wouldn't have to come back to the board pursuant to the contract manual?
Well, it was done based on, it would be over the $25,000 CEO limit, and it would be kind of on a as-needed basis per contract, where we needed to get something done quickly and get it authorized, and we didn't have time to bring it back to the full board because we have monthly board meetings and something needed to be done, and made a decision very quickly to get this individual hired or firm hired to get this work done.
But you used the word opposition, that it was done because of opposition.
Well, I'm just giving you a blanket example, a hypothetical example, of things that were occurring over the last number of years because this was implemented in 2008.
So give me an example of something that had to be done because of opposition to the work of the Foothill.
Well, it might have, to give you just a broad example, it might have been we were hearing that there might be some legislation that was passed that would adversely affect the future of the agency or the toll road, and there were individuals that we could contact and retain to help rebut that effort. So that's just a broad example I can provide to you.
It is clear to me that that resolution was passed for one reason and one reason only. It was to utilize the chair's signature to increase contracts and hire people so no one would know. In my opinion, based upon my review of these contracts, this was an incredibly abused resolution. There are hirings in here that some people may have known. Apparently, there was a mobility ad hoc where people are informed of certain things. I'm now on it, but I wasn't on there at the time. And there's clearly, in my review, I can tell you when we were provided the summary sheet, a lot of us were completely taken aback by the breadth of the contracts that have been let by this agency, the individual or entities that are contracting with our agency, and the scope of work for which they were contracted. And so, for example, the last example that I have today is the contract with Canyon Strategies. You signed on July 2nd of 2012, Madam Chair, an extension of that contract that had expired. And so it just by form, a contract that's been expired cannot be bootstrapped and then by your authority, and it was increased by $54,000, which exceeds the authority of the CEO. So, it just is incredibly frustrating to me to be a member of this board and not know what contracts are being led. The policy is not being, apparently it's followed with respect to CEO, but then once he gets to his $25,000, he's utilizing the chair, and in your words, it's to assist to offset the opposition. I think that every agency that's a governmental agency must be beyond reproach, must have complete transparency, and every director has a right to know what's going on in the agency, on the boards on which they sit.
I serve on the San Joaquin. I want to be absolutely clear that this clause does not occur in the San Joaquin, because if it did, I would be removing it right now today, because I don't think this clause makes any sense for us to have on the books. So I just wanted to confirm that we do not have this clause in the San Joaquin. That is correct. Okay.
Can we remove it today?
Yeah, it's agendized properly.
But that would be something that the Foothill Eastern would have to do, because again, it's not in my board. So I just wanted to make sure of that, first of all. And secondly, do the ad hoc committees that we form have signing authority? Because when we form ad hoc committees, I do not remember giving them any authority to approve contracts. I remember that authority. We give projects and little tasks to ad hoc committees. They do their research, they do their work, they come back to the board and report. It seems to me like there is no authority at ad hoc committees to sign. I just want to confirm that's the case, because if there is authority, then I don't want to form any more ad hoc committees unless I understand what authority is given. So is there authority given to ad hoc committees?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
A lot of this stuff, this is all public relations, lobbying stuff. none of this stuff is of an urgent nature. I want to say, none of it is of an urgent nature. It's just flat out being abused. And I think we need to address that in whatever manual we deal with, because none of us need to come to a meeting on an emergency basis to do the right thing if there's mud all over the freeway, or we'd all have to make up the incident. But I think you get the point. The other part of it is, look, it's very frustrating for me to serve here, to say the least. But this notion that committees resolve board approval is a fiction. Many of you are on a lot of boards. I assure you at best we're tied. I sit on a lot of boards. That's all I do. And there's no board I've ever sat on anywhere that capitulates its authority to some committee. Just the very notion is totally ridiculous. At best, the committee does the laboring work because we can't all be there, and then you bring it back to the board and you have a discussion. That's how it works everywhere. We're all in government at some level. So I don't know what happened in this little bubble called the TCA. There's a lot of sort of behind the scenes stuff. I regularly feel like I'm not being apprised of what's going on. There's some great reason, evidently, that I'm either not being told, I don't need to know, I don't subscribe to it, it's offensive, it's probably illegal, and we need to knock it off. One of our problems as an agency, for those of us who actually want to focus on building a road, is people don't trust us. And I just want to suggest, as a member of the board, I don't blame them, because I don't trust us half the time. And I just sit here and zip my lip in the corner and typically don't say anything. But at some point, I've reached my limit. I'm tired of the secrecy. I don't ever want to be told, nor would I as the chair of the Board of Supervisors and the OCTA, that any of you from any of these boards don't need to know, don't have a right to know, shouldn't know, don't need to know yet. That's ridiculous. It's untrue. Every board member has a right to know everything all the time. Nobody's expecting you to call us all every night, but we got to get our act together. Because this notion that some of us are allowed to know and do things that others aren't, we all have an equal right here. Some of us do a lot more work than Sean Nelson does. Thank you. It's greatly appreciated, and I mean that. But when it comes to authority and signing off, we're all in this together. And that's kind of awkward when stuff's going on that I don't know about, because frankly, I don't want to go down for something I didn't know about. I'll take my lumps for what I did. I'm used to it. But I don't want to hear about this after the fact of all this nonsense going on that I couldn't know about unless I had time to send out my own public records requests. I'm a board member. I don't need to send public records requests here. At least I didn't think I needed to. But a lot of this stuff going on couldn't be less urgent. We got contracts signed on an urgent basis to go monitor city councils for things like checking out whether they're talking about electronic monitoring. I think that's what all you are supposed to be telling us. Are your city councils or your areas having concerns? Why would I pay a consultant to do that? And it sure as heck isn't urgent, because last I checked, I already voted on electronic tolling, all electronic, and we're not going to change that anyway, unless the board changes it. So I'll be quiet. Thank you for indulging me. We are just regularly off base, and this is a perfect example of a very good idea just gone totally haywire because it focused on all the wrong things. Thank you.
I want to make a comment now about what happens when you rush decisions. The comment was made, we have to be able to make quick decisions, because if we don't, we're behind the eight ball. And the example you made, Madam Chair, was there was a potential gut and amend on a particular issue, so we had to go out and reinforce the cavalry. I just want to comment what happens when you go out and reinforce the cavalry. There's a contract on here of a firm that we hired to reinforce the cavalry. And at that time, the individual that was a point person, one of the key people in Sacramento to do that, was under FPPC, the Fair Political Practices Commission investigation. In fact, count 7 of the complaint charged him with failing to register as a lobbyist in the state of California. The contract was entered into, and I spoke to the CEO about it. He's free to comment on the record. He indicated to me that he knew that that lobbyist was under investigation at the time that he hired him back in 2013. In fact, the date of the contract was August 15th. It lasted till October 15th. And the date of the guilty plea to the Fair Political Practices Commission was September 13th of 2013. and he wasn't allowed to register as a lobbyist until that was negotiated. If you go online, you'll see that his registration as a lobbyist did not occur until on or about September 18th of 2013. When I asked the CEO if he knew that the lobbyist had entered a guilty plea or an admission of guilt to the Fair Political Practices Commission while he was working for the agency, the CEO told me he did know that he did because there was quite a bit of publicity about it. So the fact that we had a person working for this agency between August 15th of 2013 and October 15th of 2013 this did not involve you, Madam Chair. This was a sole source $25,000 contract with an individual who is known to be under investigation by the Fair Political Practices Commission, pled guilty or admitted liability during the time he was a contractor, and that was known to the agency and not disclosed to the directors. I got a problem with that. So the fact that things are going on that we don't know, people are being hired who have issues with regulatory agencies, puts this agency in harm's way. So to imply any way whatsoever that committees can handle this or chair can do this or whatever, to me, is beyond a slippery slope. We're not on a slippery slope, we have gone down a slippery slope.
Can I think to clarify that particular contract, from what I can recall, the individual who had the FPPC violation was just sitting in a room, not participating in the discussion. But because he was sitting in a room and there was lobbying efforts going on, and this was 3 years ago, that the FPPC in their investigation thought the person should have been registered. But the person was not actively engaged in the conversation, from what I've been told, was just sitting in the room on the other side. But
How do you know that?
that's what someone had told me when they investigated the reason why this issue came up, and with regard to the FPPC ruling.
So let me ask you a question. Knowing that, and knowing our CEO knew that, or knew something of it, but knew he was being charged, do you think that was something the board should have known before we as an agency, and we're the directors, and we have a fiduciary responsibility? Do you think we might want to know that when Sacramento, having spent 6 years there, is full of a plethora of registered lobbyists that can actually lobby the state legislature? I mean, don't you think that should be in our purview, as opposed to finding out after the fact that somebody was not registered, pled guilty to that, and then we hired them, and even though we knew that, we still were not informed? I mean, don't you think as a courtesy, we should have been told that?
Madam Chairman, I've had several discussions with Supervisor Spitzer about this, so let me just set the record straight from my point of view on what happened here. First of all, we did not hire the individual, we hired the firm. I was made aware at the time we were in negotiations with this firm of this situation. I fully investigated it, found out what the incident was 3 years earlier, what the circumstances were, what steps they've taken to correct going forward, and also checked with other clients of the firm to see whether they had taken other actions as a result of this. I came to the conclusion that the firm's effectiveness was not modified, was not hurt by this action which would occur in a few weeks. So I went ahead and signed the contract with the firm. This individual is a member of that firm. It's the largest, to my knowledge, I think it's the largest firm in Sacramento. They do a variety of strategic advising and lobbying activities. We've used them in the past, back in the days with the Coastal Commission, and their performance has been excellent. So that's why I did it. Supervisor Spitzer, and I told him this directly, if I had to do it all over again, I would have communicated more to the board on that. I apologize for that. But in terms of the decision to hire this firm and the work they've done for us, I stand by that. And none of the other clients of this firm, and it has the major clients in this state, their clients represent are the major firms and agencies of the state. None of them have dropped the firm as a result of this particular infraction.
Mr. Peterson, in the contract, does it outline who the principals are that will be reporting to the TCA?
I'm sorry?
Does it say in the contract who is responsible at California Strategies for the work to the TCA? Is there any name delineated in the contract?
No.
Okay. And so how did I find out that Jason Kinney was working with you for the scope of work? How did I get that knowledge?
I told you.
Right. And then did you tell me in your office when you told me, did you tell me you had any problems whatsoever? Did you tell me at the time, you told me it was Jason Kinney, and I told you I don't even know who that is. Did you tell me he had been under investigation by the FPPC or admitted guilt to the charges against him by the FPPC? Did you tell me that?
The first time we met, no, I did not.
Right, and then did I go home and do research and call you and confront you? Why you didn't tell me that information?
It was
Can we get back on topic?
Oh, no, but the CEO is implied.
I think we're grandstanding at this
No one's
point in
grandstanding.
time.
CEO implied that somehow it's a big.
Do we have a vote of the board whether anybody is grandstanding here today?
Yeah, right.
Maybe we
Only
get back
this
on board.
information came out because I brought it to your attention, Mr. Chairman. Otherwise, you wouldn't be